So what we're working here is a 2019 almost 20 Ford F-150 with a 5-liter Coyote engine. And this customer is saying that every few days when I check my oil, I've noticed that it's getting low, and then I got to fill it back up. It's getting low, I got to fill it back up. Well, there's actually a TSB out that talks about during downshifting events, when it starts shutting off fuel and bringing fuel back on to conserve fuel in this truck, basically part of the program that's built in, this truck will actually pull vacuum. I don't know if it's when it's not supposed to be, I don't quite understand it correctly, but it's something to do with it pulling an excessive amount of vacuum, and it pulls oil into the intake manifold and then into the engine. So basically what they do is they have you change the filter, put 8 quarts or 7.7 or 8 quarts of 5W20 in here. They have you put a new dipstick in it, then they have you reprogram the computer so it can control some of that downshifting event, so there's no loss of oil during downshifting while it's shutting off injectors and pulling injectors back online. So we're going to do that right now. So basically, pull the dipstick, driver's side of the vehicle. I'm going to take the new one and I'm going to lay it up here on the cowl until I'm done with the oil change. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop the oil in the filter and then replace exactly what I pull out, and then match it up to what spec is. But I'll get an idea on what comes out. I'll show you what the color of it is and how much comes out, and tell you what I think about the amount without having to measure it exactly. This dipstick will go back in the bag so I can send it to Ford for their audit.
So basically what I've done here is I put the old dipstick, you can see the dirty O-ring right there, and then the new one right next to it, side by side. Tried to match them up the best that I could. And then if you look what has changed between the old dipstick and the new dipstick, the new one is just a tad bit longer, and then the lower hole they drop down, so it shows level on the stick a little bit different than the original one that came in it. It almost shows like they're trying to stop people from worrying and show them that there is some oil in it, to try to do just a little bit of damage control so people aren't getting freaked out by not seeing oil on the dipstick. Now, regardless if this has any kind of performance effect, we know that it's just a band-aid basically. This motor takes 8.75 quarts of 5W20. The issue that I have with this truck is the plastic oil pan and where the drain plug is located in relation to the transcooler and the sway bar assembly. It just typically gets all over the place. From what I understand, they have tools now that help direct that flow away from the sway bar, but I haven't actually got to see the tool that they use yet. So the typical way to do it is by cracking the plastic plug and just letting it go all over the place. And then you have to turn around and clean the mess up off of the transcooler and off of the sway bar assembly. Sometimes that fluid will get all over the transcooler as well. I got lucky here. I'm going to go ahead and spin the old filter off and put the new one on. I didn't get a chance to measure it. Now we're going to go into the computer and actually program everything. So the PCM has the new data set to control the downshifting events, because they think with the injectors being shut off and stuff during downshifting events that's what's causing the vacuum pull on the engine, and it's pulling it through the crankcase system or whatever it is that they believe. After I got done doing all this, I never did see this customer again, and he did not ever complain about oil consumption as far as I know. I had never seen him again, but I've heard that he's been in for oil changes since, and he did not report any further issues. So later calibration is available. We're going to go ahead and actually update the PCM data set right now. Basically, I'm just explaining the fact that it says a later calibration is available, and that you have to pull the data set from the network because it's not stored on the computer. And then once you get to this point, it programs pretty fast. Afterwards, you would then go back to your self-test, clear codes, make sure nothing's stored in the computer, and run the vehicle and make sure that it took everything and that there's no check engine lights on. So here programming is erased, and now we're going to put the new stuff in. New stuff is loaded. Go ahead and acknowledge everything. Go back to your self-test selection. Run all CMDTCs. There's going to be a lot of codes that are set because you programmed a computer and basically took things offline. See, this is just because of programming. Now you'll go back in here and clear all these codes out and then rerun the vehicle and make sure everything's okay. Okay, clearing codes. Now let's start the vehicle up and make sure that all the lights are off and everything's running fine. At this point everything's cleared, and now we start the vehicle. Vehicle's running, idling fine, no lights or anything on. This is the gist of that 19-2338 2018 to 20 oil consumption on the 5-liter engines. Be blessed, guys.